Hi, it's Paul Maunder from Production Expert. In this video, I'll be speaking to the creator of the Hush Pro noise reduction plugin, Ian Sampson. This is an excellent plugin for removing both noise and reverb from dialogue recordings. Before we get into the interview, here's a quick example of Hush Pro in action. This is an example of how not to make a dialogue recording. I'm in the utility room, just by the washing machine. It's on, not the best location to record dialogue. As you can hear, Hush Pro is an extremely effective way of reducing both reverb and noise. In fact, I could choose to mute either one of them, so let's completely mute the noise and render this to the timeline, and then just take a listen to the finished result. This is an example of how not to make a dialogue recording. I'm in the utility room, just by the washing machine. It's on, not the best location to record dialogue. So let's get into the interview with Hush Pro's creator. Ian, thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us briefly what Hush and Hush Pro are?
Sure. Well, basically, they're noise reduction, right? Hush is a standalone Mac app. Hush Pro is a audio suite plugin for Pro Tools, but they both use a neural network internally that I've built and trained to separate out clean dialogue from ambient noise, transient noise, and room reflections.
And it's very effective. Having used it, I've found that this has become one of my handful of go-to noise reduction plugins. And I'm interested to know, though, Hush Pro in particular, how did that come about? Because I understand that Hush, as a solo standalone, came first.
Yes. The standalone came first. Both of them were a little bit, it's a funny story. I actually was doing a PhD in English literature and working on a book. And a book that used large language models to generate kind of surreal poetry. So and that led me into learning about what was happening in the world of machine learning for audio. Some of the new methods of noise reduction that are happening in the AI world. And at the same time, I was trying to record some poems for the book. So, and dealing with I was in an apartment not dissimilar to this one, with fridge going in the background and birds and dogs next door. So I thought I'd have a go at trying to build a noise reduction app, using what I was learning, and then went down a very deep rabbit hole into reading articles and teaching myself the basics of machine learning and building prototypes. And many iterations later, the app came out after about 9 months of kind of R&D, and then people started asking for plugin because they said, "Hey, this sounds really good, but for the workflow for post-production, we really need something that works in Pro Tools." And so I built that last summer, and that became Hush Pro.
And one of the things that strikes me about it is how free from audible artifacts it really is. And I understand that's largely down to the machine learning and the underlying model which sits behind it. Could you provide a brief insight, if that's possible, into how the machine learning process actually works and broadly what it entails?
Brief, sure. I won't get into the nitty gritty because we'll be here for hours. Basically, what's going on, you start with clean speech, right? So we sort of do everything in reverse. You take dialogue that's recorded in a studio, in an anechoic chamber, if you can get it, and different people's voices, different vocal registers, and then you mess it up. So you take the clean audio and you add reverb artificially, and you add noise from field recordings of traffic and HVAC and whatever else, and build up a library of where you have pairs of the original clean sample and the noisy sample. And then I train a network to undo that process. So you feed the noisy version in to the input to a neural network, right? And then train it to produce the original clean one as the output. So to kind of reverse the process. Now, at first, it doesn't work very well. So you get kind of gobbledygook, very warbly audio out one end. But you run it through many iterations, and it optimizes all of its parameters, and it gets better and better and better with each iteration. And after about 2 days of running that on a supercomputer, the model will hopefully converge to a solution where then you have a machine learning model that can separate out those layers of the sound and clean up the audio pretty accurately.
Wow. And that must take quite a few samples of audio really to get to there.
Many, yes. Millions or hundreds of thousands, I'd say, of like 2-second really short clips.
quite a few companies are doing AI-based or machine learning-based noise reduction. So what would you say differentiates Hush Pro in particular from some of the competitors in the market?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of subtle differences, I imagine, under the hood. But the big one, I think, is the use of the GPU and the neural engine on Apple Silicon. So Hush Pro runs on, it uses those accelerators on those new chips that are really optimized for machine learning, for the kinds of tasks that machine learning involves. And that means that you can run a model that's much bigger, I mean, orders of magnitude bigger than you could run on the CPU efficiently. And why does that matter? Well, a bigger model usually translates into, there's more neurons, so there's more capacity to learn, which means greater nuance, greater, accuracy. And in terms of the audio, that usually means fewer artifacts. The more accurate the model is, the cleaner the resulting audio is. And, a model of that scale that's running inside Hush Pro just wasn't possible before to run it, on a CPU-based processor.
Okay, wow. So I would imagine then that we're probably going to see more companies following suit with GPU-based processing probably in the near future. But I wonder if larger companies are hesitant to take the same risks that perhaps a solo developer like yourself might be able to take with something like this.
Yeah, maybe. I think, there's ups and downs to being a solo developer. It takes me a long time to do anything because, I'm wearing many hats. I'm not just the developer. I'm also the person who answers emails, right? But I do think, there's a certain freedom that comes with being a solo developer. You can, if you think something's cool, you can just work on it. And even if it's a very niche product, Hush Pro is very niche. It's, it's for post-production. It's offline mainly, Audio Suite. It's Pro Tools only. It's Mac only. It's Apple Silicon only. And that's just too small, too small a segment of the market, I think, for a larger company to go after. It's really better suited, I think, for someone who's just, working by themselves or for a small team. And part of that that's tied into the question around the GPU, right? The GPU, if you optimize for a device-specific processor like that, then it can only run on Mac. And if you want to build a Windows version, you have to build a completely separate application that has a completely different code base. So this kind of project, it makes sense that there's only one person doing it at the moment for now.
You mentioned the fact that it's Audio Suite only, and I can understand the reasons for that because of the intensive processing required. I'm just wondering, might it be technically possible or in any way feasible in the future to have a real-time version of it running as an insert, perhaps an AAX real-time plugin?
Yes. I'm working on that right now. In some sense, Hush Pro is already real-time, right? There's a preview function in Audio Suite. So, real-time just means it's faster than the audio itself. So you can stream it back without it stalling. But the real issue is latency. If you have Hush Pro right now has about 2 seconds of look ahead. So it's pulling in context from the future to inform decisions about how to denoise, a given sample of audio. And with Audio Suite, that's not a problem because Audio Suite has random access. So it can actually look at the whole audio file at once. So there's no, you don't feel that latency a. But if we were to port it to, an AU plugin or VST plugin or real-time AX insert, we'd be coming up against, a 2 second delay, which in many contexts is just not usable. I think in Pro Tools has like a 300 millisecond-ish kind of maximum delay on a track. Some DAWs can handle much longer than that, and they compensate for it, and it may not be an issue. And the real challenge has been getting the latency down without losing quality. And I thought, a while back, that was not possible. I thought, no, it has to have the 2 second look ahead. And I've done some experiments recently to kind of demonstrate, at least for my own satisfaction, that it is possible to bring the latency down, keep the quality basically the same level where it is now, and have something that's going to be in the 200 millisecond range, which is, workable for a real-time plugin. That's under development right now. So hopefully, if all goes well, later this year,
Great. Well, I don't envy you having to work on the technical challenges of developing something like this, but it's a really great plugin. And like I said, I've been incorporating it into my own workflows and I've recommended it to several people as well. So thanks, Ian, for taking the time to speak to us today and give us that insight into some of the development behind Hush and Hush Pro.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.